Well, folks, the time is near. Game of Thrones is finally coming to an end, and if you love the show as much as I do, you are probably rewatching all of the past seasons to get properly caught up before what will most likely be an intense ending of HBO's version of George R.R. Martin's book series, A Song of Ice and Fire. So I don't know if this happens to you guys, but whenever I'm really digging a show or a movie, I want to play a game that sort of evokes similar feelings. Like, if I'm watching Peaky Blinders, for example, I have an itch to play a game that features 19th century environments with organized crime gangs being a part of the narrative. Oh, well, hello, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So when I watch Game of Thrones, I want to play a game that has a vibe of high medieval fantasy, but with a story that's catered more for adults. Now, I have plenty of RPGs that are medieval fantasy, but as we all know, choosing the right RPG to play or replay can be a 60-plus hour commitment. So I have to be somewhat thoughtful in my choosing here, so let's just take a look. Yeah, I suppose the original Dragon Age could be a contender. The story is complex enough with characters that aren't exactly one-dimensional. Especially Morrigan. Dragon Age 2 kind of ramps up the political angles, similar to Game of Thrones. There are some pretty decent twists and betrayals at the end there. Dragon Age Inquisition? Yeah, I can get down with that. Has a good mixture of fantasy and political intrigue. I know a lot of people don't like the Wicked Eyes and Wicked Hearts questline, but I liked it. I thought it was a nice way to calm the pace down, to add some political exposition. Now, let's just keep looking. Oh! Suikoden 1 and 2. Yeah, there are some heart-wrenching scenes in these games, especially Suikoden 2. There's this great article by Sam Brooks of the spinoff explaining how these games were Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones was even a thing, detailing the incredible nuanced characters and complex political intrigue during a time where most RPGs were largely one-dimensional and straightforward. Yeah, I don't want to get my PlayStation out and hook it up. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Skyrim. What can I say about Skyrim that hasn't been said already? The world is quite Game of Thrones. You got dragons, you got prophecies, chosen ones, snow, a lot of snow. You got the rebellion aspect with some political elements thrown in there, but not really Game of Thrones caliber in my humble opinion.
That's not an opinion, it's a fact.
Yeah, I've played this game like a million times. Maybe I should take a break. Wait a Yeah, The Witcher frickin' 3. High fantasy element with a story certainly not meant for children. Humongous medieval open world, the characters are written with incredible depth, even the secondary characters.
Think it's that bad being a Witcher?
Guess I could have been someone worse. Just a shame I had no choice.
It was our destiny.
Destiny? Let me tell you about destiny. My dad was a drunk. He'd knock a few back, then beat me and Mom bloody. We prayed for his death every night. One day our prayers were almost answered. Dad lost his way coming home from the tavern, walked smack into a nest of neckers. But some Witcher saved him. Know what he wanted in return? Give me the first thing you see when you get home. My life. For the life of that prick? I say fuck that kind of destiny.
The dim, candlelit environments certainly remind me of some Game of Thrones. Most of the voice acting is fittingly British. Speaking of which, guess who voices King Emir? The great Charles Dance, otherwise known as Tywin Lannister. Another big similarity is the looming, mysterious, powerful enemy force that threatens the whole world kind of thing. But even with all that said, what I think Game of Thrones and The Witcher have most in common is moral complexity. The choices that you make aren't exactly black and white, good or evil. Something George R.R. Martin is quite adamant on having in his books.
I like people who have both good and evil in them because I think real people have both good and evil. There are very few pure paladins in the world.
Choices have consequences, even the quote-unquote good ones. An obvious example would be, and spoiler alert, the Red Wedding Massacre. Robb Stark was viciously murdered for seemingly doing the right thing, which was marrying for love instead of a politically arranged marriage to Walder Frey's daughter, effectively joining their two houses. After Robb reneged on his oath, Walder Frey killed him, his mother, most of his army, even his pregnant wife for betraying an oath that, if kept, may have changed the entire Stark family's future for the better. The Witcher's choices have similar consequences, even with the smaller side quests. Like, for example, you have a seemingly small choice at the beginning of the game to save a Nordling girl who was mortally injured by a griffin. You can potentially save her life by having her drink a Witcher potion. However, the cost of drinking the potion might have lasting effects, as the potion is not meant for humans but for Witchers who have had the proper mutations to become immune from the potion's effects. So, let someone live with a life of terrible permanent side effects, or let them die with dignity.
I don't know whether to thank you or curse you for not letting her die with dignity.
Trust me, choice I had to make was harder.
Another nail-biter also at the beginning of the game. You know what? I'll have Evan explain it. He explains it pretty well.
I remember specifically one of the very first quests that you get. You talk to a dwarf and he says, somebody burned my shop down. And so you say, I'm going to find him. And I remember I was really aggressively like, I'm going to do the right thing. And so I go and I do the mystery and I find the guy and he's like, I only did it because I hate dwarfs. And I was like reassured. I was like, yes, he's actually a racist in addition to being an arsonist. I found him. I've done the right thing. And the guy says, I can still remember it so clearly. He says something to the effect of like, I'll pay you off. My mom recently died. I have some money. I'll pay you off and you can let me go. And I was like, this is a trick by the game to make me deviate from the right path. I'm going to say, no, we're going to take you to, take you. And so you take him, and what happens to him is he gets hanged.
No trial needed here. Just a tree.
And I was like, that's not what I wanted to have happen. He's an arsonist. He didn't hurt anybody. I was like, he was supposed to get like a fine and be put on bail. And like, it was so sobering when he got hanged, because I was like, my decisions have a real consequence in this world, and I have to think before I do things. And amazingly, for the first time in a moral choice game, I actually wanted to do the right thing for its own sake, not because I knew I would never get completely rewarded, I would never get completely punished, and it would never be completely proportional to what I was doing. And so my decisions, I felt good about them because they were conscious decisions. Everything you did had this kind of like consequence, and I loved it.
And this is just the secondary quests. The main quests have even more dire consequences. One of my favorite quests of just all time is the Bloody Baron quest. Essentially, you are left with two outcomes: save the orphans, or save the Bloody Baron's wife, Anna, from the wicked crones of Crookback Bog. There's so much nuance to this quest and the characters surrounding it, it would take me a whole 10-minute video just to explain a smidgen of context for those who haven't played the game. So I'm just gonna spare you my poor attempt at the cliff notes, but just know that I spent maybe an hour just thinking about my decisions during this quest. Save the children. Okay, save the children at all costs, but I don't want Anna to die. I don't want the Baron to hang himself via a drunken fit of depression. It seems he really wants to change and be a good father and husband. By the way, does anyone else get a Robert Baratheon vibe from him?
An inspiring sight for the people, eh? Come, bow before your king. Bow, you shits.
Oh, you wouldn't know a good tale from a runny fart.
Well, anyway. And I want Tamara to save her mom. They've already been through so much. Domestic violence, magic miscarriages, abusive husband. But do the orphans deserve to be sacrificed to the crones because of adults making stupid life choices? Ugh, God, this game is awesome! Geralt sums it up pretty well.
If I'm to choose between a greater and lesser evil, I'd rather not choose at all. Usually, though, the stakes are just too damn high. Sometimes in choosing a greater evil, you do good, albeit in a small way. When I chose to save the orphans of the swamp, I couldn't know Anna would die, and I never thought the Baron would leave his wife where she lay, find a rope and hang himself. Most times, you make your choice and never look back.
There's no 100% good way out of this situation, and that sort of moral ambiguity is what makes this game so great and why it's the perfect candidate, in my eyes, to play in preparation to Game of Thrones' upcoming
Bittersweet ending.
They both are able to straddle that fine line between high fantasy and real-world circumstances. A great cinematic open-world RPG that has the same level writing as the highest-rated TV shows. Yeah, I've made my choice. But I'm sure there are plenty of RPGs out there that I don't own that are just as good or better candidates, so let me know in that comment section what games you are inspired to play when you watch Game of Thrones, or hell, any other show or movie. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. More to come. Have a good one.